But we see it. The retreat has emboldened the Chinese in the Western Pacific. It's emboldened Putin, who has invaded neighboring states. And of course, the Middle East is just on fire, significantly because of the retreat of American forces from Iraq after we had created a stable and peaceful society. Maybe the most egregious failure in the Middle East, though, is President Obama's Iran nuclear deal. And just for the record, as we gather here this afternoon, do you realize that the Iranian parliament has not ratified that agreement? No Iranian has signed that agreement. They will tell you, and the administration will reluctantly acknowledge, that they're not legally bound by this agreement. But the administration, nevertheless, gave them $100 billion. And what have they done since then? We were promised that we would see the moderates would be empowered and they would start behaving more nicely towards the United States. Really? Tell that to the 10 American sailors who were taken prisoner and whose pictures were then broadcast around the internet as propaganda for Iran. How about the missiles that they've been testing repeatedly in blatant violation of the agreement? These are missiles that have the capability of delivering nuclear weapons. Oh, and then there's just last week when we learned from German intelligence that Iranian government officials have been trying to buy nuclear technology, completely illegally, completely in violation of this agreement. And what is the response of the administration? The response of the Obama administration is, let's use American taxpayer dollars to reward Iran when they occasionally comply with the agreement they're required to comply with anyway. You can't make this stuff up. The heavy water, which is part of the technology for developing nuclear weapons, the agreement is very clear. It says Iran has to get rid of it. They have to get rid of it. The Obama administration is, well, let's pay them to get rid of it. Let's give them $7 million US dollars as a reward for honoring that portion of the agreement that they're supposed to do anyway. It's very, very disturbing. And Katie McGinty, she's a huge cheerleader for this Iran nuclear deal. She thinks this is a great thing. I think just couldn't disagree more. Guantanamo Bay. This is a prison. It is modern, state-of-the-art, completely secure, and it's on an island that is not part of the mainland of the United States. You know what I think is wrong with Guantanamo Bay Prison? Too many empty beds. There should be more dangerous terrorists. It is the perfect place to keep the world's most dangerous terrorists. But that's not the way President Obama views it. He wants to close it down, and when the other countries of the world have the good sense to say, we're not taking those people here, don't you know who they are? Okay, well then we'll ship them to the United States. Why would we want to do this? But when asked, Katie McGinty applauded the President's approach to closing down the Cape. The last thing I want to say on the security front is something I've been very aggressively pushing. And again, Katie McGinty and I are complete special benefit on someone if they're here illegally. It's unbelievable. Now, I've been criticized by people on the left who are fans of this idea. And they say, well, you know, you're fear-mongering. That's what you're really fear-mongering. Try telling that to the family of Kate Steinle. You know the story of Kate Steinle? Kate Steinle is a 32-year-old woman. She's walking on a pier in San Francisco one evening with her dad, when suddenly a man jumps out, starts firing a gun, hits Kate Steinle, and she bleeds to death in her father's arms. It was almost exactly 1 year ago. What's so maddening about this murder is that the shooter on the pier that evening should never have been there. He had been convicted of 7 felonies and deported from the United States 5 times. He's here illegally. But worse, just 3 months before, the San Francisco Sheriff's Office had this guy in custody. They had him. And when they raised the red flag with the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Homeland Security said, oh, we know who that guy is. That guy's a dangerous criminal. We want to get him out of this country. Hold on to him until we can get one of our agents there to take him into custody so that we can ship him out. San Francisco police sheriff response was, sorry, we can't cooperate with you in this regard because we're a sanctuary city. They turned him loose onto the streets of San Francisco, from which he shot and killed 4 young, beautiful women. This is what's at stake, folks. This is a dangerous world. How many more times do we have to see? How many more attacks, whether it's in Paris or Nice or San Bernardino or Orlando? How many more times do we have to see these kinds of attacks to start to take our own security seriously? And that has to include the case of sanctuary cities. You know, this policy in Philadelphia, which is a sanctuary city, is so radical that even President Obama's Secretary of Homeland Security is completely opposed. He traveled to Philadelphia to plead with the mayor of Philadelphia, say, please, just make exceptions to your policy, if you would. So that when we tell you that the person you have is a suspected terrorist or someone we think is an active member of a dangerous drug gang, could you then cooperate with us? And the answer is no, we won't. We're going to be a sanctuary city, period. Folks, this is madness. This is not taking our security seriously, and it's a dangerous world that we live in. Katie McGinty refuses to call for an end to these sanctuary cities. But I'm not going to give up. I offered a bill on the Senate floor that would have brought an end to this. And unfortunately, our Democratic friends, I only got 2 votes on their side of the aisle. We got a majority in the United States Senate, but we didn't get the 60 votes that you need in order to actually pass something. So I'm not giving up. I'm going to go back and I'm going to fight this again because this is essential. This is extremely important. One other point I should make is, yet again last night, another horrific attack against law enforcement. I am so furious with the people who have chosen to spread a completely dishonest narrative, a completely false story that actually probably contributes to an environment where these kind of attacks can take place. And the false story is that our law enforcement, our police are a bunch of racist rogues, and they're the ones who are the threat to peace and stability. It is nonsense. They are the men and women who put on a uniform every day and take great personal risks to protect us. They protect us from the bad guys. And you know, every single profession under the sun is going to have a certain number of bad apples. That will happen because we're human beings. We should investigate and punish people when they do something wrong, in whatever walk of life that is. And that includes police. But to paint the police generally with this broad brush that attacks their integrity and their character is so unfair and it's so wrong. I'm going to continue to stand up for our police and our law enforcement. So, you know, whether it is national security, whether it is our economy, whether it's our domestic security or law enforcement, Katie McGinty and I probably might be the 2 most contrasting candidates in America, 100%. If you think we should just double down on Obama's policy and just continue and even go further, by the way, Katie McGinty on Obamacare, which I'm totally opposed to and want to repeal every last word of that terrible bill, Katie McGinty wants to go further and have a single-payer system where the government just explicitly owns and controls everything. It's really unbelievable. But that's what this comes down to. Are we going to extend the failed policies of the Obama administration? Are we going to put Chuck Schumer in control of the United States Senate? Because this race in Pennsylvania could very well determine that. Or are we going to go in a different direction and start to restore the vitality, the economic growth, the prosperity, and the security that we all deserve? I think I know the answer, but I'm going to need your support to get this done. And you've been great. You've been so helpful to me in the past. We did so well in 2010 in Lawrence County, but we've got to do even better this year, and I think we can. And I can promise you this, my campaign team and I and my family, we're going to work as hard as we can every day right through election day. So you can't get a day back. And it's getting closer and closer. With your support, we can get this done. You know, when I think of all the mistakes that this administration has made, the huge policy errors, the blunders, the idea that we could re-elect President Obama, I'm reminded of the great wisdom of the great Winston Churchill, who said about all of us, he said, you know, you can always count on the Americans to get it right after they've exhausted every other possible option. Well, I'm done with exhausting the other options. It's time we get it right.